Howdy, folks. I'm Colonel Sanders, and you're not. I wanted to touch base on the recipe. We know for the last 2 years I had a series on TikTok and YouTube talking about the original recipe and all the information that could and is public about it, what the family does and doesn't know, and yada yada yada. We've been talking about this stuff for 2 years, and it led me to make a recipe of 11 herbs and spices and make a video about it and post it to the internet of what I believe to be the most accurate ingredients in regards to my uncle's recipe out there. Because I had step cousins that leaked the fake recipe years ago, went super viral for it, and it turned out to be completely bogus. I have other step cousins or ex step cousins that are claiming to have it. And truth be told, I don't really know who does and doesn't actually have it. There's no way of me actually knowing that for a fact, but just guessing it, nobody in the family has it. Now, I said that multiple times for a few reasons. One, in 2001, the Settles family, who bought the Claudia Sanders Dinner House from the Colonel in the 1970s after the lawsuit between Hugh Blaine, which is KFC's parent company at the time, filed against the Colonel for opening the Colonel's Lady. They had to rebrand it to the Claudia Sanders Dinner House, and then he had to sell it to new owners. So he sold it to KFC members or ex-members and close family friends of his, the Settles family. Well, in 2001, in the basement of the Black Hall Manor, which was his home, they found a recipe for what I think I read. It said it was stovetop stuffing, but they thought it was the original recipe. They contacted Kentucky Fried Chicken. They said they had the original recipe. KFC immediately filed a lawsuit to protect their assets, to keep them from revealing it. Now, the most that I believe KFC can do, because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not in law in any shape, way, or form, I think the most that they could do to somebody who might actually have it is file a gag order to keep them from speaking about it. They can't tell anybody about it without legal repercussions. But they filed a lawsuit against the Settles family. They ran an investigation and they found that it was not the original recipe. So, anybody from the Colonel's family that would be claiming, oh, we have it, KFC technically could file that same lawsuit against them and see if they actually have it and file a gag order so that they could not reveal what it is. So, one, by me saying nobody has it, not only do I believe that to be accurate, if it's not accurate, it protects anybody in the family from, being attacked by KFC. But then the people start commenting on my page. Lee's side, I love them to death. They started commenting on my page that they had it. And there were already rumors that Lee Cummings, the Colonel's nephew, my cousin, actually had the recipe. I ran a bunch of research and I found out that he worked with the recipe. He mixed the recipe. He was the nephew that was right hand man of Colonel Sanders during the entire growth of Kentucky Fried Chicken. If Lee knew the recipe, it is my belief, if that rumor is true, that he wrote it down without the Colonel's knowledge. And that he, when Lee died, left it to his children, which is the only way that their family would be able to have the original recipe, is if Lee copied it down when he knew the Colonel, when he worked with them, died, and passed it on to his kids. One kid's left alive today. The other one sadly passed away a few years ago. So if they have it, they haven't handed it down through their family, but they would be the only ones to have it. When it comes to Josephine's side, I had a member of her family comment on my page and multiple other videos saying that they have the recipe. Now, the recipe is believed by Josephine's side of the family to have originated from Josephine's mother, but not as the recipe that we know, a recipe that Uncle Harley had altered and changed. He took inspiration from it. Now, that could be absolutely true. Uncle Harley was known in an interview to have said he knew there's different seasonings for sausages and dressings and whatnot, and you could take some seasonings, some ingredients out of those, mix them together and get another good seasoning, and that's how he developed his chicken seasoning. So it's very possible that his mother-in-law at the time had a recipe, and he altered it with another recipe and was creating what we know as 11 herbs and spices. This is how cooking is made, folks. We don't just think of stuff sometimes. Sometimes we take inspiration from other things and we make them better. So it's entirely possible that is the recipe that they have. I want to go into now when the recipe was made, because I had some things wrong in the past. I said that Claudia came After the 10 herbs and spices was made, she came in when the 11th was found. And that's inaccurate. Claudia was diddling around with Uncle Harley around that time, which led to the divorce in 1947 between Josephine Keene and Colonel Sanders. And I believe Margaret wrote about it in her book, but that book, I also am told, has a bunch of exaggerations and lies in it, so I won't bother myself with reading it. But I heard some excerpts out of there that mentioned him sneaking around with Claudia. He married Claudia in 1949. 1947, he divorced Josephine. So Josephine was there through 1930 to 1940, the development of the 11 herbs and spices. Before Kentucky Fried Chicken was a thing and it was going to become this big secret recipe, it was just a family recipe there in their kitchen because Uncle Harley had no intentions of franchising or creating Kentucky Fried Chicken. He had the Sanders Corner Cafe, and it was doing so good at the time that that's what he thought his life was going to be. So he wrote the recipe down on a piece of paper and he nailed it to the door jamb of the kitchen. He told his daughters that there's the recipe, that's what's in it, and if he dies or something happens to him, they could continue on with the restaurant. Well, then 1952 came around. He created Kentucky Fried Chicken and was guinea pig franchising. He was looking for test franchisers, and Pete Harmon was his first yes. He knew that things were going to happen. There were talks about opening up a highway. 1955, that highway was completed, and all of his customers started going down that road because it was faster and it took away all of his business. So he was forced to sell the property and move to the road to start selling his chicken. By 1955, he's with Claudia Price at this time. While he's out franchising, Claudia Price is making the recipes. She knew what it was. She had to mix it. She knew exactly what went in it. I do not believe that Claudia would have handed the recipe down through her family. I do not believe that Claudia would have betrayed her husband. I do not believe it. Just from the kind of person that I know that she was, and Uncle Harley was, I don't believe that they would have, went behind his back and handed down the recipe through the family. He trusted certain people in the family with it. When those people died, what happened with it is their business, and maybe it did get handed down. How I know Joe Ledington didn't get it is because the recipe he revealed was absolutely bogus. It wasn't the Colonel's handwriting like he claimed it was. And number 4, oregano, was spelled oregano, which was wrong. It was not the original recipe. The only copy I know of, which was signed by the Colonel, that was given to Brown and Massey in '64 when he sold KFC, is that one that was nailed to the door jamb. If the daughters kept it, they didn't hand it down because the grandchildren say that they don't have the recipe. Everybody asked them if they have it, and they say they don't have the recipe. I don't believe anybody going around the internet claiming to have the recipe, just insisting that they have it, actually have it. If you have it, do what Joe Ledington did. Even if it's fake, show people what it is if you're going to publicly claim it, because if you publicly claim it, KFC can publicly come after you or legally come after you and sue you for it. So if you say that you have it, post what you're saying it is. What I posted is what I think it might be based on research and documentation of the brands with their public ingredients over the last 50 years. That's what I posted, and I guesstimated what the measurements would be. Because I got tired of people saying, oh, I have it, holding over heads and not saying what it is if they're going to publicly claim that they have it. The people who are not publicly claiming to have it, not publicly talking about the recipe, I would believe would actually have it if they privately said that they have it. But people have been publicly saying it. The only thing that I honestly believe, if Lee got the recipe, is because he copied it down and then he just kept it for safeguarding. And when he died, it was passed on to his kids. Whatever was in his possession was passed on to his children. That's what I believe. I don't know if it's true or not because I haven't seen confirmation that they actually have the recipe. I haven't seen confirmation that Josephine's side actually has the recipe. It's all hearsay. What I know for a fact is that my side wasn't given the recipe and the Colonel had no will, so nothing was handed down from him. That's what I know. So if members of my family want to claim that they have the recipe, the only thing that I gotta say is I'm not trying to cause any issues. I'd love to connect the family, but I also don't like bullcrapping. I also don't like people holding things over the head. I don't like people lying. There is just too much rumors going around that he said, she said, they had, or whatever. There's too much going around over the years of people claiming to have the recipe inside the family, outside the family. What I know for a fact, the Colonel's direct line, his grandchildren, do not have it. The Sanders side do not have it. Lee's side might have it, and if they do, one person on Lee's side have it. Doesn't mean the entire family knows it. One person might have it. One. And with Josephine's side, I don't know much about her side. I just know that she was there. And I could absolutely believe that Josephine knew the recipe. And if she wrote a copy of it down for whatever reason, because Kentucky Fried Chicken wasn't started until after he was divorced from her. Kentucky Fried Chicken started in 1952, not in the 1940s. 1940s, it was the Sanders Cafe. So I don't know why she would copy it down, but I can believe that her side has her mother's recipe, which isn't the original recipe, but was inspiration for the original recipe, if that makes sense. I could believe that. But I can't believe people who spam on my page and spam on other pages saying that they have the recipe, but they are going to hang on to it as if it benefits them in some way. Because if you're publicly announcing it and KFC catches wind and they, like the corporate legal team, catches wind of it and they deem it as a threat to their trade secret, it is their job to pursue that and prevent it from actually happening. If you have something from Colonel Harlan Sanders himself that could 100% confirm that it is the original recipe that you possess, they can prevent you from sharing it or even telling people that you have it. They can't. But I know Uncle Harley didn't hand anything down to the family. I know Uncle Harley didn't hand anything down to somebody else other than Jack C. Massey and Governor John White Brown Jr. His recipe, when it was the Sanders Cafe, maybe his daughters knew it, maybe his wife knew it, and I know for a fact Claudia Price knew it. But going around online claiming that you have it, if you're not going to show facts for that, don't go around claiming that you have it, because I want to stick to what I said. Nobody in the Colonel's family has it. I haven't seen confirmation of it, and to the best of my knowledge, nobody in the family actually has it. I don't have it. What I revealed again was my research. My research went along with what family that claims to have it has said. Maybe I can believe that the family that is saying they have it might have known something of it because their grandfather worked with it, or Josephine worked with it, or Margaret and Mildred worked with it, whoever. I can believe it when they say that they know parts of it or may have a good idea. So I based my research off of some of what they said, and a lot of what Mary and K Spice's public ingredients have been over the years, talking with the owner of Mary and K Spice's, and what Kentucky Fried Chicken's public listing has said over the years. And based on what Uncle Harley has said over the years too, before he died, he left hints all over the place. He never said what it was, but he always left hints. He told my great-grandfather the 11th ingredient, you couldn't get it in a regular store. It was super rare, super expensive for its time, and that it was what completed it. And a lot of people think that's saffron. A lot of people think it's vanilla. It's not vanilla. I suspect it was cardamom because I did a lot of research based on that, but I can't prove that. I could prove what 7 of them were based on public ingredients. I can't prove the rest of it. It just becomes speculation. So I'm not pretending to have it. I'm going through research and giving you what my best estimated guess would be on it. And then I get people commenting on my page, oh no, we actually have the recipe. Okay, so am I right? Well, we're not going to tell you because it's a secret. Well, you don't work for corporate, so what do you care? You obviously don't care if they're going to sue you because you're publicly announcing that you have it. So I guess what this whole video is if you're going to say that you have it, have something to back it up with. Otherwise, just don't say it because it just looks like you're attention seeking. And I'm not trying to cause any hard feelings with anybody, but I know that Uncle Harley didn't hand it around outside of the family. And I get a lot of people saying that their family, like P. Harmon's family or Dave Thomas's family, has the KFC recipe. I don't believe that at all. I could believe Cousin Lee had it. I could believe Josephine had it. Now, whether that was passed down through the family or not, I don't know. I haven't seen confirmation or proof of it. I'm not saying I want to know it, but I would think that if they're going to tell me that they have it, and and they want me to talk about them having it, then they should at least show me some proof of them having it, if that makes sense. But the only real believable story that I have of the original is Lee's side. I could believe Josephine's side too, but I just don't see why she would have handed Uncle Harley's version of the recipe throughout the family, um, or had saved it to begin with when it wasn't a big famous restaurant. It was just the restaurant. I don't know. If you're going to come on my page and talk about it, though, talk about it. Don't just say I have it and not talk about it. But to the best of my knowledge, nobody in the Colonel's family has the recipe. 100% fact is nobody in the Colonel's family was given it by him after he died. It was not left to anybody. What Claudia did with it, what Josephine might have done with it, what the daughters might have done with it, what Lee might have done with it is all speculation and rumor. And unless somebody wants to come forward with absolute 100% proof that it is the Colonel's handwriting in his recipe, unless they want 100% proof being shown and risk that fight with KFC, then to the best of my knowledge, nobody has it. There's no point in saying that you have it. The KFC won't come after me because it's just research. It's public research that I did. They might come after somebody who says, oh, I'm in the Colonel's family and he left it to us. Okay, let's see the proof of it. Because if you have something that's from someone else in the family, you can't necessarily say it's the Colonel's. You could say, oh, we think they got it from the Colonel. But it might actually be what they thought it was from working around it. See, it just all becomes speculation. On my page, when we speculate, I label it as speculation. When it's fact, I label it as fact. So if it's the actual recipe, I would tell you this is actually the recipe. Here's his handwriting. Here's his signature. This came from him. If I got the recipe from Lisa, let's say Lisa decided to share it with me. Let's say they had a book with it in it or something, and they shared it with me. I would have to say, this is what is believed to be the Colonel's recipe, according to Lee, because they got this from his nephew who worked with them. Not this came directly from the Colonel. This came from Lee, and I have no way of proving whether it is the Colonel's or not unless it was signed by him. All in all, I would like to move on from the recipe topic because there's so much stuff. I put the most accurate information that I could find out there. I tried to make it so people wouldn't ask everybody in this family the most annoying question is, do you know the recipe? And then other people wanted to try to undermine that and say that they have it, so that people continue asking or they don't believe me when I say I don't have it. So I put the most accurate information I could find on it on the research. I got rid of all the misinformation about the recipe that there is, because no recipe out there had all the ingredients that I listed that have been factually proven. The 7 that have been proven through documentation over the years. No recipe that's out there that is claimed to be it, from family, from non-family, whoever it is, has all 7 of those on there. So I know for a fact that those are all fake. So I put the most accurate information out there, and I'd like to move on from the recipe topic because there's always going to be people claiming to have it, always going to be people claiming to leak it, always going to be people trying to figure it out, not believing what I have is it, and trying to figure it out further. I did what I could do. My goal isn't to reveal KFC's secrets. My goal is to teach people about the history and the truth with the most accurate facts so that you can believe it and look it up yourself. I did a series on the recipe. I found the most public ingredients. I had sources that people don't necessarily have to research on, which is family and people willing to talk who are actually there. I had all that. I put a recipe together. That's my theory on it, and I'd like to move on from it. I'd be happy to talk about some of my own theories and thoughts, but I don't want to talk about any more of family may or may not having the recipe. I don't want to talk anymore about people may or may not have the recipe, or it's been on the internet for years, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to talk about that. I'll talk about my theory and the sources of my theory. But when it comes to these rumors, I really don't want to talk about them anymore because that's all they are, rumors. I can't prove it. I can't disprove that somebody has or doesn't have it. All I could tell you is, to the best of my knowledge, nobody in the Colonel's family has the recipe from him. It wasn't an heirloom. Do with that information what you will. I like to get back to talking about the history rather than just the recipe.